But there we are. There we are. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and hopefully everyone's all good. So thanks for coming in. Hopefully Anthony's going to come in a little bit shortly. I've got to. It's the most awkward of things, right? Normally I would have had my delivery already by today, but I've got a delivery coming in at 10 minutes or so now. It's ironically next, so hopefully it won't impose too much. But I will have to pause this if Anthony's not here, and um, obviously get the delivery in, be 5 minutes, and then come back again. But ultimately, what we're doing tonight, we're going to go through and talk about, hopefully, just to confirm everyone can hear me. I just want to check everyone can hear me. Anthony's coming in a minute. I can hear him then. But and he can hold the fort. He can hold the fort like when the he can be like me when I go and get the delivery in. He can come in and do that. But I'm literally about 10 minutes away for the delivery. So, but I've got a couple of good. I just anyone Jake Paul. Anyone Jake Paul. Jake Paul and Tony, was it? Is this that fighter? Wasn't it? He's. It was a fix. It was a fix. It was all a fix. Apparently so. So Fury. Was it? Fury. Fury. But anyway, less about that. Less about that. Less about that. Tonight we're going to talk about what I want to go through. There's obviously Anthony's waiting a minute. He's someone who's going to come in and talk, and we're going to discuss. I've got a few questions for him regarding his journey, and obviously he needs to be careful what he's saying because he's still in process and whatnot, and he definitely does not want to be upsetting anybody because the reality is he's in a really good space with his ex-partner at the moment. So and long may that continue. So um, there's also a question. There was bits in the group this morning that I wanted to answer, and there's a comment that went up regarding Cafcass, and I'm going to try and get that in before before the delivery gets in. But ultimately, um, you've got to realise, everyone has to realise, and I say this a lot, and I say this, and I make no secret of saying it. Yeah, solicitors in family court, I believe, are a total waste of time. This is just my evening, whoever that is, I can't see, but evening. That's my opinion, and it's not just my opinion. It's also, if you look at other good Mackenzie friends, they're of the same viewpoint. Because if you've got nothing to hide and you've got nothing to, you have, sometimes mistakes happen. You have to own your shit. Yeah, it's one thing we say: own your shit. Now, you're gonna have everything you do before you lead into court is being watched and examined. A judge is not going to be able to make a decision based on what's in front of you, what's in front of him in these hour-long hearings throughout your case. If there's lots of multiple allegations against you, which sometimes there can be, you have to, you will, if you can't come to an agreement on whether they happened or not, and then you will have to go through to finding a facts here, and that's what's going to happen. But ultimately, your first pre-build-up, preamble, before you get to that point, you're going to have your interview with Cafcass. And Cafcass will, hello Troy, good, nice to see you. And Cafcass will do your safeguarding interview. And with your safeguarding interview, they will, you will have a 45-minute conversation. And that 45-minute conversation will either come back with concerns on it from the other side, so she'll raise concerns about you, and you may well have concerns about her. The myth of not slagging your ex-partner off, and you should not slag her off, you shouldn't say anything negative about her, but if you've got concerns, you've got concerns, and depending on how the relationship is, your words have power. Your words have an immense power. So if you're going to go in and you're going to just lambast and slag and moan about everything, and it's all negative and derogative, and there's nothing positive to say about it, then you're going to get slammed. But there's ways of talking about things that doesn't have to be so negative. For example, I will always say that my ex-wife is a good mum in the main. She's got different parenting styles to me, but in the main, she's a good mum. And I don't agree with everything, but she wouldn't agree with everything how I do things. But the only issue I have is her alienation towards me. And then they'd ask you questions about how do I mean and what can we do to positively fix it. And that's what you've got to do. I went in back in the day and I was not, I was told don't say anything negative. You don't say anything negative. And there's so many cases where I'm dealing with stuff now where people have not said nothing negative into the in the Cafcass interview. They're going through to all the to heat of it all, and they're just getting crap thrown at them, and then they're trying to say something back about their ex-partner, and it's getting you didn't say it in Cafcass, and the judge will automatically say Didn't say anything about it to Cafcass before. Why are you bringing it up now? You're going to get questioned why you're bringing it up now. You can bring it up now. You can bring anything up anytime you like. And you can say anything you like in court as long as it's respectful and, well, yeah, respectful. I suppose that's the most important thing. So that's pretty much that. So you can't. I'm going to give you some examples. I've written some examples down. Yeah. So let's look at, for example, the Cafcass report comes back first of all, and it has no safeguarding concerns. You've got to show that you're vigilant. You've got to show you express that's a good thing. But you don't going to go if there's no safeguarding concerns. Why would you then go and create safeguarding concerns by raising loads of allegations against the other side? Because then you may not be against you, but it's against the other person. And if it's genuine concerns, then you've got to air them effectively and communicate properly. But you can't be you've got to take it in the big scheme of things. And you can't just say, there's a dirty nappy there, and you've got different parenting standards and styles. As long as the basic needs are being met, then is it really going to rock the boat that much? And that's what you've got to do. If for me, the comment this morning where it was saying she's got psychiatric problems, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. And I've got some examples here on what you could say to and how you could say it. So, for example, you could say you share your concerns about your wife's mental health. Recently, she's been exhibiting signs of depression, or she's got schizophrenia. That impacts the family life, and explain how it impacts the family life. Yeah, but how and how does it negatively impact the children, and what is a positive solution for it? That's what you've got to do. You've got to word it as if it's a problem, but you're aware of it, and it's a positive solution because you're not medically trained, so you shouldn't be. You can't. It's not you should avoid it, but it's not like. It's not something it should not be avoided. It needs to be said. So you can't go around like not saying stuff because it defeats the object of the interview. And then when you've got your safeguarding letter coming in, because your safeguarding letter will come back from Cafcass, when that comes in, it's going to have allegations on there against you, and what you should say will be on there as well against her. And the judge has to come together and try and decipher if there's any truth in any of it. And if both parties cannot agree on any truth in any of it, then that's when it goes to more complex and depends on what the allegations are. But it will roll on from there. But everyone falls into a category. It's either going to be, depending on what your allegation is, depending on the allegation, you'll fall into that box. And depending on how severe the allegation is and what evidence there is against you, that's how a different box you'll fall into and and a different mode you'll walk down. Because anything can be said, and because it's said, it has to be taken and heard. It can be taken away, but then if it's taken, it just gets messy. I think everyone needs to be aware that your interview with Cafcass is probably more important than your time with the judge, because you need to befriend your Cafcass officer. Because if you're not doing that, then you're going to get a crap report, and that influences the judge. So I think it's now 82%, 81% of judges agree with what goes on in the Cafcass report. So they're just rubber stamping it. So everything that goes on outside of court is more important, and the psychology behind that, because they will do things. They will stereotype. They will put you into a box based on allegations. They will make you feel awful based on allegations. How you respond to that will impact everything that goes along with it. And as long as you know, you need to take on board that nothing is against you personally. It's just they treat everyone the same. And that's just how it is. Anthony hopefully is going to come back on in a minute, because literally my Amazon delivery is going to be here in 2 seconds, and the buzzer's going to buzz, and then I'm going to have to put it down to a 0, or if he's not here, which is fine because he doesn't want to keep the airtime. He's not very good at telling jokes anyway. But I've got a couple of good jokes while we're waiting, and I'll come back onto that. So if anyone's got any questions regarding that, let me know, because I will answer them while we're doing this. Yeah. Because it's really important that you do. For me, you have to get involved with. You've got to air your concerns in a positive and constructive way. Yeah, you've got to be respectful when you're discussing your wife's mental health. It's more important that you show respect and you show solution and a positive vibe than being derogative and negative all the time. Offer solutions. That's one of the biggest things you can do, and the most important things you can do, because you're not just saying negative stuff just for the sake of being negative. Because you don't want to be putting it down. Mental health. Everyone suffers from mental health at one stage or another. You don't want to be in a situation where you're slagging off her mental health in this situation, and then a few years down the line something happens to you, she's strong, and then she's using it against you. Mental health is not there to be used against anybody, because it could be you one day, and that's just the reality of it. So you use it with delicacy, you use it with care, and you do it with love. And love, that's the thing. How do you? That falls into getting Anthony on in a minute. Once the buzzer buzzes or whatnot, you have to bear with me because the delivery is going to be turning up in a second, and it's really awkward that's doing that. But that's what you need to do. You need to think about the fact that you were married to this woman. She is the mother of that child. You might want contact. You might want the child to be living with you. You may believe the child is safer living with you. If that's the case, then you need to do that by showing that you're amicable and you're showing that you've got respect for the other side. Because if you have no respect for the mum, how are they going, when societal norms are literally the children would normally stay and reside with mum? Yeah, I thought you might. Yeah. So when you're trying to show that you're the more sensible person, and you're going for a lives with order, and you're saying the other person's got mental health issues, if you're showing an anger and frustration and hate towards that person, that in this instance the mum, that the court are not going to be looking at that too kindly, because you've got that child needs to have the mum in their life still. So you've got to be doing it in a way with love and care, because as much as they may be throwing mud at you, you need to be taking the moral high ground and brushing the mud off you. That's what I say. Brush the mud off you, brush the shit off you. But ultimately, if it means telling your story and your facts and your version of events, and that means, I say, rewinding the situation a little bit. So you've been told that you stood on her toe. Okay, but she had a breakdown and she had a meltdown and blah, blah, blah. So you have to tell your story. There's a build up to the fact that you stood on her toe. So you rewind the situation and you tell the event from when you start the event. You rewind it and you tell it from where you started from, not from where she starts it from or he starts it from, depending on the situation. I take gender way out of this. What about the mum is the angry one and she's already showed it? Yeah, they will. Look, they will all the time. And the tolerance level is really, really high, really high. I've got a way of doing some not being angry. Yeah, being angry. Back in the day when I was first going through it and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, I was getting allegations thrown at me left, right, and centre. That'll be the Amazon delivery. So you can either bear with me and I will do this now. Bear with me 1 second, yeah. There we are. I'm back. There you go. So, where was I? Blimey. So yeah. So could you please briefly go back? Okay. Yeah. 1 second. 1 sec. Could you please go back about the discuss mum's mental health with Cafcass? I just joined. Right. So yeah. So just do that again. So basically, with regards to the mental health, it has to be said. It has to be done in a positive and constructive way. Now, it has to be like with regards to having a positive outcome. Anthony can hopefully come and help me a little bit because I've just repeated it. So Anthony, so how are you? You good?
Yeah, they're not so bad. Yourself, you all right?
Yeah, man, not bad, not bad, not bad. So you've just heard what I said about the mental health stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Because obviously people just heard my bit on it. So the people who are just joining now who want to hear that, how would you approach the mental health thing, given your mindset now? And we'll talk about your bit in the past, but we'll talk about given back where you are now in this space of time.
So, like, you know, I'll say a little bit of at the moment what's going on. You know, like my ex, she claims that she has mental health problems. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, like you can't judge anyone with mental health problems. Yeah. So you approach it differently. You know, the way I'm looking at it, if the children are happy, yeah, and you know, and you haven't got no safeguarding concerns against that, and they coming to you with safeguarding concerns, yeah. Personally, I wouldn't bring it up in court or anything like that because there isn't a problem. What's the worth making drama out of something when there ain't no drama there? It's just like tit for tat. You know,
Yeah.
if you're gonna make drama, then you're making drama for your kids.
Okay. So yeah. So you wouldn't you would just leave it there. You would just leave it as it was. So you would just leave it as is.
I'll
Well,
I'll I'll leave it the way it is, yeah. But then if my kids come to me and said,
yeah,
Daddy, like they come to me with concerns,
yeah,
yeah, then that's when I will say something, and that's when I will step in,
yeah,
yeah. Like long as my kids come to me and say something, then you know there's a concern.
yeah.
But you can't look at it and going, oh well, because she's got mental health, something's going on. You
So
can't always.
okay. So what would you do if the kids were coming to you, and how would you approach it then? Or how would you what would your approach be then if they were coming to you?
Well, if I go into the situation, what I'm personally in there,
Yeah, yeah,
I will approach her, yeah, and ask her about it. But I'll approach her in a in a manner of like, oh, you're right. The girls have said this, yeah. What's actually happened? You
yeah,
know, I wouldn't go in there and blame them straight away. I
yeah.
wouldn't go in there and jump the gun and go all mad. I'll approach it sensibly and go, okay, the girls have said this to me, yeah. What has actually happened? So
Yeah.
you approach it like you're not blaming them. You want to know the story, what's behind it, why they've come to you and said,
So you're seeking to understand before being understood, basically.
yeah,
Yeah. So okay. So and in terms of how I would approach that. So for what's his name, Raheen. Yeah. So in terms of displaying that and talking about that to Cafcass, yeah, you've got to share your concerns in a positive and constructive way. So if you they've got the set load of questions they will ask you, yeah,
yeah,
and off the back of that you've got to you should say like I suppose you could say I want to share my concerns about my wife's mental health. You're not using it as a negative. You need to show an awareness of how important, how
you,
crucial you're trying to be because you're trying to show care. You need to show empathy. You need to show a
you
lot of
can
empathy.
make a negative, you can turn a negative into a positive.
There you go.
You know, on a level, yeah, you don't want to go in. Yeah, you want to explain your concerns, but do it on a positive level. Because if it's a negative level, they might look at you differently. So you need to go on a positive level. So just say his children have said something, then you approach it and going from a father's point of view. This is what I've been told from my children, and I feel like it's a safeguarding concern.
Yeah.
So can you explain it that way? Don't
I
go
think
in and
yeah.
go, well, this is this,
I
that.
think yeah, definitely. I think what you've got to be conscious of. Whenever you're dealing with Cafcass, you're going to get you can get Cafcass officers that are really, really good, really good. You've experienced a really good
Yeah,
Cafcass officer, yeah. But then at the same point, that one can change, and then you've got another one comes in, and they'll be totally different. The problem you have is you have to assess the person you're talking to, and that's difficult to do when you're doing it over the phone. But if you're doing it, if your vocabulary is good enough to you can articulate it in a way that you want to share it with empathy and concern, and the concern you have for the reason in this instance she's a schizophrenic, I think it was, or she's got definitely concern, definitely got mental health issues, but ask the question rather than going in with an allegation or saying something negative. ask the Cafcass officer, are you aware of her mental health concerns?
Yeah.
Are you aware of her? Are you aware of her mental health issues? Because she's
Yeah.
diagnosed with X, Y, and Z, and then this would then lead on to and let the conversation flow. Because you have to, because Cafcass will lead the conversation naturally.
Yeah. So
And they will ask you. They will ask you to share more information. They will ask you to say, "Oh, you open that, and what do you mean by that?" And then they'll dig, and by what you say and how you say it, it will open the book to being: are you being derogative and nasty, or are you doing it out of love and concern for your children? If you're doing
exactly,
it for love and
come
concern for your
across.
children, then it will come across that way.
Yeah.
And
100%.
always.
Like, it's an icebreaker. You know, when
Yeah, yeah,
when when I knew I was having a Cafcass meeting, I approached them first. Yeah, I rang them first
yeah. That's what we do.
because I wanted to break. I wanted to break the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about the the first expression, the first. When you meet someone, it's all
Yeah,
about how you represent yourself.
yeah,
How you come across. If you approach them first and come across as concerning and go, oh hi, my name's Anthony Precious, I just wanted to call you so and so, and break the ice that way. When you come to your interview with Cafcass, it isn't going to be so awkward. It ain't going to be so daunting. Going, oh, no, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? It's going to be more. You're going to be more relaxed. If you go straight in there, you're going to feel, was that all right? Is it going to be a concern? You ain't going to know how to say things. So if
yeah.
you do the icebreaker, it'll be more. You'll be more calmer when it actually goes in for the actual interview. When they phone you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when things go, I think that's a really good point because what we've done, that's something we've done always. So when you get your first initial Cafcass interview, it might be a bit late for some people, but for others, if you're going through this, watching this in 10 years' time, whatever, you when you get your initial interview letter from Cafcass, you need to go and approach Cafcass. Now, the Cafcass don't normally get people calling them. You need to call them and say, "Oh, what's going on? I want to help. I want to work with you." You need to show an expression and a willingness to work with them because that's not what they're normally used to. That's not what they're used to at all. And I think if I take how police treat people, if you look at a police, they'll treat in the main. If you're in London, if there's a protest going on, they'll treat everyone really firmly. They're not having a go at you personally, but they'll stereotype everybody to be the same. Cafcass will stereotype every single man to be the same. So if you're going into a Cafcass interview, where normally you can how do you say? Normally they would have spoken to the partner first of all. They've spoken to the ex first
Yeah.
of all. The reason we go in first of all, with the icebreaker, saying we're lost, rabbit in the sheep. What do we need? Rabbit in the headlights. What do we need to do? How can I help you? Is because we're breaking the ice with the Cafcass officer, as well as everything that Anthony just said there. That Cafcass officer is going to speak to your ex partner, and then they're going to break the ice with the ex partner. And the ex partner, no doubt, is your ex partner, so they're not going to be saying anything too positive about you. So what you need to be continually doing is putting out the fires, putting it out, not putting petrol on it, not keeping it going.
Exactly. Like when I had my one, I would talk about the experience when I'd done mine. Yeah, I'll put my concerns across, but then I put positive things across. If you go in all negative, yeah, they're going to be like, well, hold on, he's against them straight away. If you put a few positive in there, yeah, you might not see the positive, but you know there is positive in there. Put some positives in and put some negatives in. Then you're going half and half. If you chuck an all negative, yeah, they're gonna straight away look at it and go, well, straight away you don't like her. Straight away they're gonna be like, well, they're gonna think a different story of you. If you go in a bit of negative and a bit of positive, then they think, okay, he's taking some responsibility for that. But there is some good things come out of it, but there is some bad things. And they can look at it 50-50. She's gonna absolutely say everything negative about you. Absolutely everything negative, what she can think of. But if you go in there with positive things, yeah, then they'll think, oh, okay, they're not so bad. He ain't the troublemaker. What she's saying, she's on the phone. What he's on the phone. So if you have to go a bit of both.
Always, I think, and as well, I've seen, and then a lot of this again goes on psychology. A lot of this is if you have been in trouble with the police, and it's dropped down from being criminal into, and you've got lots of criminal investigations going on, and you're going to get treated differently by Cafcass than what you would do if you are just a normal person who has not been in trouble with the police and that sort of stuff, because that's just the nature of the beast. Because unfortunately, as much as you're innocent till proven guilty, in this world, in this world in family court, you're generally guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. That's how it feels. I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm saying that's how it feels.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it definitely is not like that at all. It's that you literally have, but you have to go in and prove. For me, if you litigate in person, you can take no chances of expecting the judge or anyone else to think the way you think. You have to point out what you know and evidence what you know. Anthony, I've got this actually. What you could say, I've got a panic here. So what you could say, I'm concerned about my wife's mental health. In the past, she has a history of postnatal depression or whatever the situation might be, and is showing signs of depression again. She's been struggling to bond with our child, and I'm worried about the impact this may have on our child's development. That's a way you could. You need to have a positive spin on it, a positive back line to it in terms of how it's going to impact your child. And when you're making allegations against your ex, you need to make sure that these are sufficient allegations, not different parenting styles. Yeah, because there's a
100%.
basic minimum needs of a child needs to be met. And in most instances, and I use myself when I first went through the system 10 years ago, you're throwing anything. I was throwing mud around just for the sake of throwing mud around. I was getting shit thrown at me, and I was throwing shit back. And literally, it did nothing. It just prolonged everything. It just prolonged everything. And if I hadn't have been given the wrong advice and just throwing everything around like a machine gun, just splattering around everywhere, all over, yeah, I would not have been in the situation I was in for so long. If you can minimize your allegations to the real nitty gritty concerns. I mean, Anthony, I've got some serious questions for you in a minute, so bear with me. But if you've got some serious concerns, you've got to base it on, does that impact the child? Does it count as neglect? And then you've got to put it on the spectrum of what neglect is and what the people see and what social services are dealing with against everything. And it's really difficult. We're going to come to parental alienation shortly, but it's really difficult to highlight covert narcissists. Yeah, very difficult, because they are very underhand and very good at doing what they do. And for a judge to highlight that you've got, that's going to take a long time. That's going to take a long time. Anthony, you've made some serious changes. Yeah, we've been working together for a little while. We were speaking the other day, and you've sort of come to a place where I'm at now. It took me like 8 years, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years to get to this spot. But and you've done it in a much shorter space of time. Your case has been up and down and whatnot, and it's been all over the place. But it's been in a positive and negative. It's had everything. What would you say? How were you feeling? How were you feeling when you first went into the case? When you first went into everything, and then what's changed, and what changes have you made that have contributed to that change, and how has that developed where you are now and where you were before?
So when I first started all courts, all the court hearing going into court, yeah, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna be upset, because these are your children. Yeah, you're gonna feel every single emotion going inside you possible. Emotion what you'll never think you will show. Yeah, because it is a hard, rough time. Yeah, I was getting allegations thrown at me. Yeah, but then I was doing the same back. No one's ever not, no one's innocent. Yeah, everybody goes a bit of tit for tat. Yeah, everybody does it. You know, and it made it hard. I was going through stuff what I'll never dream what I was going to go through, and it was a hard journey. A hard journey when it first started off. I was a broken man. I'm happy to say I was a broken man. For 4 months, I didn't see my kids, right? And I'll tell you now, that was the biggest thing I've ever had to go through. It broke me big time.
So in terms of like you were, I mean, I remember. So in terms of the conflict between you and your ex, how bad was it? How big was the conflict?
It it was it was really bad. It got to the point that the conflict was that high. I've had to call police on pickups. I've had to call police on drop off. And I could see it that my children didn't want to go home to the mum. And I could see my girls weren't happy. My children weren't happy. And you feel that emotion inside you going, to tell you what, I don't want my kids to see this. They've seen enough what's been going on now, and it was destroying my kid's life. It was literally destroying my kids.
But you just said something there. You just said that your kids didn't want to go home. Why do you think? Why do you think that was? Were you at the time? What was it you were thinking at the time, and what do you think it was now?
It, it, I, if I look at it now, I think they didn't want to go home because they could see like the conflict more with the mum than they could see with me. Because I was holding back. I was like, I don't want to show. I'm not going to argue, in front of my children because my children don't have to see it. But there was so much conflict there from the ex-partner, that the girls was getting mixed up with it, and it was all they were stuck in the middle.
So, you'd say, and right now, that look at it now, would you say it wasn't? Would you say that was? It wasn't. I don't want you to watch this and think, oh, you're slamming her down or whatever, because you're not. Because it wasn't necessarily always her fault. Because I remember when I was in that situation, I wouldn't want to give Lila back. I'd be like, she doesn't want to go home. She doesn't want to go home. But really, I was then probably playing to that as well, which was probably making it because I was resisting giving her back. Does that make sense? But there really wasn't anything really wrong with her at home.
I was actually in the same boat. I didn't want to give my children over because I was, my main concern's like, if I give them over, am I ever going to see them again, or is it going to be another 4 to 6 months that I'm going to see them again? So I was worrying that I would never see my children, and I thought, is she going to take me back to court and throw this in with it, and then it's going to stop me from my children? It was a mixed emotions. I wanted to keep my children, because I didn't think I was going to see them again, and I made every weekend that I had them. When I first actually got to see them after 4 months, after that, I made every weekend like it was going to be my last weekend because I knew what she was going to be like. So every weekend, every fortnight, I was like, this is going to be my last time I'm going to see her. So I made every minute count.
So what's changed now then? Where are you at now with everything?
Well, it's taken a massive turn. I can't appreciate, how much of a good turn it's taken. There's no conflict, which is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Not just that, my children are 10 times happier. They want to go home, and some things you've got to look at and going, is it actually worth causing conflict? Is it actually worth putting silly allegations in when if you see your children how I see my children, you're thinking, to tell you what, it's a time to turn. And it just it took years. Like I've been going 2.5 years.
So what was the instigator for that? What happened? Because I remember it. I remember we were going to do. Don't have to say what we were doing, but there was something that happened. Don't say what it was that happened, but something happened, and then we didn't act on it. So tell us about what. You don't say what it was, but just say what that thing was.
Well, I was gonna go back into court, and I was gonna go, right. I need to put these in. I need to put these concerns in. It needs to go in. But then, I sat there. I probably sat there for three days to a week,
Yeah.
and I sat down thinking, is it actually worth it? Is it actually worth putting them in? Yeah. Why I'm in a good space, the ex-partner's in a good space. The main thing is them girls in a good space. My children in such a good space and are happy in a happy time at the moment.
Yeah.
Why destroy something? Yeah. Why it's going good? Yeah, it's not no worth destroying something over 2 allegations. What can make it go all the way back round again, and you'll be in the same situation where you started off from.
Yeah.
Then you might be waiting another 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
But and again, the kids grow up, and if they see something that they feel something was good, and they're more mature now from when they were before, and they can realise, well, it's Daddy that done something here. Daddy that did something. He done something there that instigated that, and they'll then could cause resentment towards you and all sorts of stuff. So, but I think what was really poignant about yours is because we were in two minds about stuff, and we didn't, and I'm like whatever, I'm cool with whatever, but we said, oh, what. You want an easy, peaceful life. You just want an easy, peaceful life. You're fed up with courts. You're fed up with this. You're fed up with Cafcass, all that sort of stuff. Because some of the stuff was really hairy and it got really, really deep at some point. And I'm like, and you were like, we just took it, and we didn't do anything. And let the stars and the moons do its thing. And literally now you're in a space where like everything's cool. I mean, everything is literally, you accept the different you've got inner peace. As I said to you the other day, I said, the penny shop with you. You literally got inner peace for yourself. You literally are accepting everything that is everything, and that's giving you a better quality of life because you're not stressing anymore. It's giving everyone a better quality of life because no one's stressing. You've not even finished your case yet, but what happens? What are you going to do when you go back to court? What's your plan?
I'll be honest. Like my plan, what I'm going to go for. Yeah, I'm not going to sit and lie about it. I want to take my girls full time, but I'm not going to push my girls into something. So I'm going to say, let's leave it the way it is. When it's their time, they think it's the right time, then I'll make them make that decision. It's not worth pushing something if they're not ready for it. Yeah. They'll know when they're ready, and they'll be like, "Tell you what, I think it's time." You've got to let the children make their decisions. If you don't and you push for it, they might rebel against that. And if you do get them full time, they'll rebel against you. Then they're going to hate you in the long run because they're going to go, "Well, you took us away from mummy." Then you're going to look like the evil person.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I think you nailed it. But I think as well, you didn't just land at this space. You didn't just land at this space where you're at now. This is a journey. This is a journey that you have to go on, and you are like for me like a BFG or whatever. Like you're fucking you look out for me. But the thing is, you could have come across in court like a bit of you could have come. They take you at face value sometimes, and you didn't. You all the way through. It's been difficult at times, but you've been taking that moral high ground and you've been doing things the painful way because you've gone a long time without. Don't get me wrong, this varies for lots of different people, but any time without seeing your child, whether it be a week, a month, 4 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever the time is, it hurts because it hurts. Just naturally, you're missing your kids. So you've done massively things with that. So how has that been for you? I mean, how are you able to curb your emotions all the time?
It was hard. It was hard, really hard. Sometimes when I was starting off, sometimes it got so hard. I was crying myself to sleep most nights because I weren't seeing my children. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. But then why things are going on, and when I did get access to my children, it made life a little bit easier. Even though things was harder, my life was easier because I feel like, right, I've got my children. Yeah, I'm seeing them every fortnight. So it made it easier in my life because I feel like, right, this is a time now. This is the time I'm still seeing them. So it takes like all your emotions out of it. You think, right, I'll get to see them until next court date. That's when we have to jump the next hurdle. But at the moment, let's focus on the children because they're with you now.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to focus on. If you get your children, even if it's every fortnight, they take your pain away and it makes you happy. I know when you drop them off, it's absolutely horrible. And all the emotions come back. I know that because I've been through it. Yeah. And when you see your children cry, it's the worst thing ever. But I used to cry on the way home. Yeah. And, my children even see it going, "Oh, Daddy, why are you crying?" Because they're happy tears. Don't worry about it. Why are you happy? I went, because I scared to see you. It's an emotional journey. And now I can drop them off with a smile on my face. My kids have a smile on their face, and that's all what matters to me.
So you and because you've taken that approach, you've sort of seen. I mean, you've seen all sorts. But you've seen where you could go, the road you could go down. I mean, and conflict is a big thing. Parental conflict is massive right now. Yeah, and you cannot imagine how many people go from private law proceedings into public law proceedings because the conflict is so high. Because people can't resist other than throwing the mud. Because you get your it's very easy and the natural thing to do. You got to think, right? When you're getting the allegations put on you, your natural thing to do as a human, as a man as well, is to defend. And sometimes, as a man, generally, it's going to be defend, throwing the ball back quite hard. Yeah, and you want to defend your position, you want to defend it, but ultimately, when you defend it like I messed up, I was defending it and I was shouting my mouth off. I was defending it and I was being a dick. I was defending it and I was being the person that she portrayed me to be, even though I wasn't that person. So you're instantly falling into that trap, even though you weren't there, that person that she's making you out to be, but you're being it that way in court because you're angry and frustrated because no one's listening to you, your voice isn't getting heard, and ultimately everyone's putting allegations against you, and you don't feel like your allegations are even getting heard back.
No, they might not be getting heard back. Yeah, in that courtroom,
They
you
are, but
might
they
not
are,
get heard at all. Yeah, but deep down, they're looking the way how you handle yourself in court, how you're looking. If you're going court, you know, I got in court. My ex partner went mad, and I stood there and I kept my mouth shut because it's not worth arguing in a courtroom where they are judging you. They are judging you. Yeah, but if you give them something to judge on, like they make out you this person, if you show them that, they're going to judge you more. If you're sitting there and you're agreeing, things you might not want to agree on, you agree on only to certain things, to a certain extent.
Within reason.
Why your ex-partners are over on the other side of the courtroom shouting her mouth off? You're looking good because you're not rising to that, and you're doing what the court says, and that's what they want to hear. If you reject them, more they're going to go against you.
Yeah, I always say that. So the more you can say yeses, the more yeses you have is a positive. The more yes you've got, and that's what we do. And that's what we do. I know what people want, what the courts want on your first hearing. I know what they're going to. You're going to go to your first hearing after your safeguarding thing with Cafcass and whatever. You're either going to get contact or you're not, and that depends on the allegations, the nature of the allegations. Depending on the nature of the allegations will depend on whether you get contact. So ultimately, what you need to do is you need to try and minimize the concern that's going to be shown. So I know exactly what the judge will ask for off the back of each allegation that's made. So we go into court with everything the judge is going to ask for. So you're saving yourself time and you're saving yourself basically hearings because the judge was going to ask something, but you've already got it. I've already got it, judge. It's here. There's only very few times I've only been said. There's only been said, oh no, you've done that too early. We didn't want it. You're trying to skip the things. And I was like, yeah, well, I am, but we were, but that judge didn't let that happen. We had to get another doctor's note and blah blah blah. But ultimately, there's things you do, and there's one guy that I'm working with now. We're going to go in. We're just going to put the whole Scott. We're going to do everything we need to do, and the judge isn't going to expect it because that's not what everyone does. Because people will go with their solicitors, and the solicitors will long it out through every single fucking process and every single hearing and everything you can do. And then every time, if it's legal aid, whippy do you. As a man, you've got legal aid. Well done. Yeah, that's very rare, I would say. And I don't care what anyone says about men getting legal aid because I've known too many men to try and get legal aid and it be rejected. And but ultimately, if you get legal aid, great. But then even your legal aid solicitors are going to be longing it out because they want to get paid from the government or however they get paid.
Yeah, so 100%. You know, I wouldn't have ever gone with a solicitor. Yeah, like that's my personal opinion. You know, I've had friends who went with solicitors, and to tell you what, they didn't get anywhere where I got. You know, and that was before they was going to court before I was. You know, and they paid silly money.
I've got a guy. I've been trying to put it out all weekend, but I've been too busy. But he got a thing from the solicitor he was using. He tried ripping them off big time, but ultimately, not only that, the price of it, the cost of it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. I mean, people criticize me. I'll put it out so people can actually see what people get charged. But ultimately, the reason I would never trust a solicitor, and I'm seeing some solicitor comments over there, but I can't really see them properly. But the solicitors are not to be trusted based on the fact that they want more money. They do not have a genuine, vested, heartfelt interest in your case. You are just money to them, and they will lug it out, and they will try and put you through every single thing. And I've got enough examples where the solicitors have said, "Don't bring this up. Don't say that. Don't say this." And I get onto the case, and I'm like, "Why have you not said this? Why have you not said that?" And the solicitor said not to. And
because they want to get them
again. Huh?
That's all what they're interested in. You know, every client that walks through that door, or every client they see, every client they talk to, they've got money signs. That's all what they've got in their eyes. Because, you know, they say, oh, don't say that. You will, because we're going to say it for the next hearing. Oh, don't say that. And, you know, if you've got 3 different things you want to say, but they said, no, don't say it, that's 3 another lot of court hearings. How they're going to make it. So that means for another lot of money, what they're going to be taking.
I've had people pay £3,000 for their first ever non-molestation hearing, and what they got for the back of that, I can't remember people. What they got for the back of that was their house is emptied and their stuff taken off them. And it's like so there was occupational orders and stuff involved as well. And it's
Was
like,
that worth the money?
it was, yeah. So you pay your £3,000 and you still got fleeced. The outcomes are there. The outcome. I promise everybody, and I put money on it, yeah. And I promise the courts. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The courts do want, and they do know that children are better off with both mum and dad. That goes against everything that anyone else ever says. That goes against anything that people believe based on the bad experiences that people have in court. People have bad experiences because they're getting bad advice.
Yeah,
it's quite simple. Yeah,
100%. I can't agree. I can't agree more. I can't agree more.
I behaved so badly in court. I know when I got. At the end of my first ever court case, and I had my personal with seven cases in all total, whether it be non-violent extensions or whatever. So my first ever case, which is the longest, which is the most painful, that could have been shortened down so much if I wasn't such a dick. If I wasn't such an idiot, I wouldn't change any of it now because I've got the knowledge that I know now. I know how far I can push things. I know what we can do and what we can't do. But ultimately, people and the advice people say, "Oh yeah, don't do this, don't." Fuck it. You know what? I mean, that is bollocks because you've got to do. You've got as long as you're polite and nice and you show respect, you can do anything you like.
That's
but
it.
You have
it's all about showing respect. When you go into the courtroom, you've got to show respect. If you don't show respect, yeah, then really you might as well say bye now, because they're going to look at you in a totally different way. Go in there, show respect. First impressions mean everything.
Mate, yeah, even with your Cafcass, even with social service, with everyone, everyone. So it's literally my thing is, what was it? Own your shit, be humble, sacrifice, compromise, and remain child focused.
That's it.
You stick with them, and mate, and let's not be funny. Like you've owned your shit in court. You've owned, When things, it takes two people. It takes two people to get into a relationship. It takes two people to argue. It takes two people to stop communicating with each other. It takes two people to have a baby with each other. And It takes two people to leave each other. So it's going to be
as they say, it takes two people to tango. That's it.
And people might feel. I'm probably giving out too much information, but people might feel that why should they do this? Why should they do that? Well, for your
it's
kids.
The benefit of your children. It's the benefit of your children.
Yeah.
When I've had the girls over the weekend, yeah, things is like okay. So when I started having them, I thought, right, what should I do? I was making cakes to the girls. I'm like, go on, send them home for mummy. I'm not going to say the name, for mummy's partner.
Yeah.
Take some cakes home, because I thought, okay, I'm showing gesture. I'm showing willing. I'm willing to move on. And if you can accept that you're willing to move on and not put the past behind you, because you're going to still be hurting from the past. But if you can start planning, like a bit of a future, how you're going to co-parent, it's going to work out 10 times better.
Yeah.
Little gestures mean more than anything.
Without doubt. I think, and look, it took me 7 years. Yeah, it took me 8 years, like I say, and I was angry for a long time. So I'm never going to criticize anyone for doing anything in family court because it's emotions and it's crazy. Yeah. So, but ultimately, you've got people need to do what's right for them, but they also need to know they need to stop spending £500 an hour, £3,400 a day. They need to stop spending that sort of money on a solicitor because your results are predetermined. Yeah. The system makes you think that you need a solicitor in family court. If you're in criminal court, you have to have a solicitor because you're just not allowed to defend yourself in criminal court because it's a different type of law.
Yeah.
But if you're in family court, you do not need a solicitor, because even if you've done something wrong, even if you fucked up, like as long as you've not killed anybody, something severely, like touching kids and that sort of shit, as long as you're not done that, nothing like that, you will get your kids. The courts want you to have your children. You have to work through the allegations. When everyone says you have to stay child focused, fucking right, yes you do. But you stay child focused by telling the truth by your version of events. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're pushing someone under the bus if it needs to. You need to, but that should be by telling the truth, being honest, and taking responsibility in yourself. When you take responsibility in yourself and you own your shit, the other side's going to be throwing everything in your direction anyway. I tell everyone, COVID-19 is your fault. Everything that goes wrong in that person's life is going to be your fault.
Yeah.
So you might as well just accept it. You might as well just accept it and take responsibility anyway. And you're going to be the credible person. And the person throwing shit at you that has done nothing wrong in their whole life ever, and everything is always somebody else's fault. And even the troll, everything's always someone else's fault. No one takes responsibility. When you've got someone sitting there saying, I'll take responsibility for this, I fucked up here, I fucked up there, that's wrong here, I could have done this differently. But the other side just saying, no, he's fucking this, he's that, it's all him. The judge is going to look, the judges are human beings, they're totally human beings, and they will see the reality. They deal with shit all day long.
Of course they will. You know, as they say, lies are always will come out in the end. Yeah? And all I'm going to say is, I've seen that.
Yeah.
You know, you know it as well. I've seen what's coming out now.
Yeah.
And if you lie and like courts find out about it, so services lie about it, they're gonna just pin you to the floor.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, go in there, own your shit. Yeah, admit when you've been wrong. Yeah, you might not want to, but admit when you've been wrong. It takes a bigger man to admit that he was wrong than anything, and they will respect you more for admitting what you've done wrong. Yeah, than you lie about it.
Yeah, 100%. I think nailed that as well. I think everyone's going about DAP, and no one wants to do DAP, and I get why no one wants to do DAP. I get it. I totally get it. Especially when you, in your view, you've done nothing wrong, right? But it's really important to say, right, that domestic abuse and domestic violence, it happens, right? It literally. I thought, and I say this for the people who are new in the group or whatever. I thought I was defending myself against my ex-wife. I thought I was defending myself. I still today say I was defending myself. When I said to the judge what happened, and I sat there and I said, stop hitting me, fuck off. The judge didn't care that she was hitting me. Didn't care. The judge just said, right, you've been physical with her. You've confessed that you've been physical with her. And so we'll take that as an admission of guilt. And I was like, well, if that's the law, then that's what it is. Then that's what yeah. So they upheld. They took my admission of guilt and they dismissed the allegations that were made against me. But then what happened was at the end of the whole non-moral stuff and the end of the whole case, the judge turned around and told me, and I didn't realise it, but told me how much I'd been abused. Or in the judge's findings, in the summing up, toxic relationship. I use the term toxic because that's what the judge said my relationship was. It was toxic. Yeah, and I hear that term now a lot of the times when the other judges are summing up for other cases, and it's if you use that term toxic, it means something really severe to the courts, and it shows it's a different level. Same as what I was talking earlier about the vocabulary that you use doesn't have to be the Queen's English when you're in court. You have to be yourself. You absolutely have to be yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't. And this is the biggest mistake people make. You're going into court trying to be something you're not. Trying to remember the story that you are. Trying to remember the person that you're not. But if you go in there with yourself, I went in summer this year. I was going into court with my shorts. I don't know if I was going to court with my shorts. Going to court with my parka. But I do that stuff because it's because I'm me. Because I'm me, and that's where it needs to be.
You know, the way I look at it, if you go into court thinking of a story, you've got to remember that story. Yeah. You know, as they say, if you lie, you've got to remember that story. If you're not lying, you can walk in there and you don't have to remember that story because everything what you say is going to be a truth.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the way I personally look at it. You know, all the things what I've gone through, and when I've called the police, nothing's been wrong with it. But then, what I've done with the example, I was like, so if the shoe was on the other foot and I'd done that, I'll be locked up now. I'll be locked up.
So many cases, exactly the same thing. So many cases. It's not. That's what you realise now. You realise that now.
Yeah.
But it's not just you because you see that there's. So it happens to so many other people, and when it's happening to us, we're like, "Is this just happening to me? They're just picking on me. It's happening to me." But it's not.
Loads of people will go through it, and to tell you what, there's loads of people who's been in your situation, who's been in my situation. They maybe not have been able to go. Oh, how do I deal with this? You know, there's loads of people out there who won't openly admit what's been going on, but I openly admit.
I found it difficult. I made no secret now that I've been a dick, but equally, I've got the judges. I know the truth. So when people can say anything to me, I'm like, well, I've got the judges' findings here. I know right now. I'm in a place 10 years. This is how fucked up this is. Where's how messed up this is? I shouldn't swear. I never said anything about my ex-wife being abused, I suppose, as a child, right? Her and her auntie, right? And I didn't say anything until the final day of the final hearing of the 2-day hearing, and that's why. And I said it then, and the judge turned around and right go at me because I should have said something to the Cafcass officer and that sort of stuff, right? But I didn't say anything because I didn't want to go down that low. I didn't want to go there. But ultimately, off the back of that, the uncle was doing stuff to his kids as well. And the thing is, the whole family knew about it. The whole family knew about it, right? But they didn't say anything. And I didn't want my daughter. If I wasn't going to be, I was on the cusp of having everything. My house, my daughter, everything. Literally was over on cocaine. Everything was in my favour. I probably would not have done based on what I know about the system now, compared to what I knew then. But I felt like at the time I was going into court after day one. I was going into court and everything's in my favour. I got a phone call that night from my daughter, and she said she wanted to live with her mum. So everyone knows, my ex-wife knows that anything like Lila asked for, it will happen. So I went to court the next day, regardless of what's going to go on. I said, I want Lila needs to live with her mum. Blah 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 blah. This is what it needs to be. I got everything I asked for, and I probably could have got more if I knew the law more or knew what I was asking for. Yeah.
But you've done that. You said, "Oh right, I'm going to do that. I want her to live with her mum." You've done that. You knew that's what will make her happy.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. You've got to realise what makes your kids happy. Do it.
Yeah.
You might not want to agree with it, but just do it, because you know if your kids are happy, you're going to be happy.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's the thing. I hate it when people call me on no caller ID. It's like if someone's calling me on no caller ID, right? Like literally, I did this last time I was on a live, right? It's a troll. And what it is a troll, right? So I answered it last time, and they put the phone down on me, and I was like, I'm not going to bother to waste my time with it now. But so it's obvious. But yeah, so what I think is really important to remember is that so literally sacrificing your stuff, sacrificing what you want for your child ultimately, but being open and honest with Cafcass. And look, I could have called out what I believe. I could have called out, and I should have called out 5 years ago, 6 years ago, with the amount of times I've been in court with my ex-wife. I should have called out what I believe to be NPD or narcissistic personality disorder or some sort of shit there. Yeah, I should have called it out, but I never have. Now, 10 years, 5 years down the line, my daughter has normalized the behavior and the treatment that she gets, and it's accepted, but because it's too deep. So I can't do any changes now and that's what I have to work around. But I'm lucky and fortunate enough that I've got a decent relationship with my daughter. So I'm fortunate enough for that.
Yeah, something has come out decent out of it. That's the thing. You've come out with something. And if you went and said all the other bits, yeah, where do you think you'll be now?
I breached my daughter's. I say this to one. I breached my daughter's trust. I went back with. I can't remember what court case it was, but I was recording stuff. I was recording her when we were talking, and I was like, "I'm going to get my daughter back." Back to court, and literally, I recorded everything, put it all into court, and she got into so much trouble. I don't know what happened, but literally, she stopped talking to me. Lila stopped opening up with me. I had about 18 months of just silent treatment, or not silent treatment, but just not the way she was. And then she's back now. The way she tells me everything now, she tells me everything. The way I've got stuff now in my locker that mum doesn't know, social services don't know, people don't know, but I know. And that's the concerning thing is that these things happen, but she feels comfortable enough to tell me. But these things, it is what it is.
But that's the same thing as me. Yeah, like my eldest would literally tell me everything. Do you know what I mean? It's because she knows she's safe, and she knows I'm not going to say nothing. If you've got that bond with your children, what other bond would you like?
This is it, mate. This is it. And then what you need to remember is when was the last time they saw their children? And if it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, if the professionals haven't taken the kids off the mum yet, then there's not a concern.
Yeah.
As far as the professionals are concerned. And then it's just a different parenting style. And when you realise that, and then you diffuse your argument, you'll get to see your kids a lot sooner.
Yeah. You've got to accept it. I will speak for myself, I speak for everybody, like a bit of advice.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to have different parenting skills. And you've got to go, to tell you what, she'll do how she'll want to parent, I'll parent how I want to parent, And the way I had a conversation, I'll never thought I'll have a conversation with an ex. Over my children, I was on the phone for about an hour and a half. I think I told you about it.
Yeah.
And to tell you what, that was one of the most positive things, that has ever happened. And that was when the turning point happened. The turning point happened because it was so positive, and I was like, okay, it might be just the thing what she's saying, and it's only going to last a month, but I think it's like 5 months on. I'm in a position where people want to be.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, really beautiful thing.
And you've just got to accept it. You know, you parent how you want to parent, and they'll parent how they want to parent. And even if you can be on that same level, go, okay, so what would you, how would you not punish them, but how would you deal with if they're misbehaving? What do you do? And maybe you can go, okay, this is what I'll do, because this is what I've done. I went, but when they do this, this is how I do it. And she had completely different, and you can meet in the middle and go, okay, then I'll try that way.
Yeah.
But if it don't work out that way, I'll go back to my way. You've got to accept things.
Compromise.
Yeah. If you don't compromise and you just want to be at each other's throat all the time, just remember one thing. Your children are stuck in the middle of that,
Yeah.
and your children are they're both gonna hate you at the end of it. When they grow up,
Yeah.
oh,
They vote with their feet.
Mummy done this to you, and they're gonna hate you. Like, sorry, but that's the way I look.
Guarantee it. Look at the situation I had with Lila last year. Look at the situation she got fed up. She got totally fed up with her. She wanted to, she was living with me. She wanted to come move in with me and that sort of stuff. She got totally fed up with how her mum was treating her and how her mum was how her mum continues to make it difficult for us to have a relationship. But then she's got a new boyfriend who's got like 4 kids and moans about his ex partner who makes it difficult for him to have the kids. And it's like, well, what are you doing with? Why is it okay for you to moan? And they had a big bust up, but Lila will vote with her feet, and the judge said this to me and Lindsay back in our first case. Your daughter will vote with her feet, and it's fine because Lila. I said, I want to go to Manchester. I want to go to Manchester, live there. Lila's like, no, you can't do that. That's where she wants to go to university. She wants to get away from me. She wants to get away from her mum. She wants to. She loves us both, I'm sure. But the fact of the matter is, she's fed up with her mum. She's fed up with her mum. The way her mum is. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. She's sucking up and doing what she needs to do because that's what we have to do. But ultimately, she doesn't. She loves her mum, and I know she loves her mum, but she loves me too. But she wants an easy life. If you've got a child who's getting punished or getting told off for having a relationship with the father, who fucking just want to spend time with him and whatever, that a child is naturally going to stop wanting to get punished. So this is what they do at school. This is what they indoctrinate your kids. This is how they teach everyone to be robots. You lose your imagination. Yeah. So you literally lose your imagination to do anything in schools. I can't talk about that because that's a different thing. But ultimately, that's what they do. Surviving. That's what they have to do. They have to survive. The kids have to survive, and that's what they're doing. They have to adapt to the situation. I said to Lila, back in 2020 when I first read the last Cafcass report I had, and I said to Cafcass, whatever. I said, if Lila doesn't want to see me, don't worry about it. I won't see her. The only change Lila made was she wanted to see me 1 week less in the summer holidays because she wanted to go shopping with her mates, and I was like, fair play with it. If that's the case, you're growing up. And I said to him, we had a chat, and I said, look, you don't have to come and see me. I was in Watford at the time. I said, you don't have to come and see me. You've got no friends in Watford. If you'd much rather see your mates or whatever, go out with your mates, cool, go for it. And because I've given her that freedom, I suppose it's backfired a little bit now because she's taken full advantage of it. But because I've given her that freedom, it's got us, although we're far apart distance-wise, we're still very close emotionally.
But then if you didn't give her that freedom,
Yep.
yeah, if you didn't get that freedom, you might not be where you are now.
Exactly.
You have to, you might have to say yes to things what you don't want to say yes to. But then, if it weren't for you saying yes to and give her that freedom, you might be in a completely different situation now.
I guarantee it. People who push, and I've seen it, and I watch it. I can see it happen. People who push their kids to come and stay with them when the kids get to a certain age, when they just want peace, they want to be in their bedroom. I remember what I was like as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I wasn't, when I was 13, I wasn't, I suppose, different lifestyle, but I wasn't at home. I didn't have any parents, effectively. I was a feral child, I suppose you could say. But I didn't have the limitations that Lila's got on it, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that no matter what Lindsay and Lila have had their falling out, and they've had their disagreements, I'm grateful that like Lindsay is there to make sure that she is parenting Lila, and she is because no matter what happens, I know whether I agree or disagree with the parenting style, I know Lila's safe in the eyes of the big scheme of things because I know there's people out there in a lot worse situation, and Lila knows that too.
Exactly. If you know she's safe, she's got a roof over her head, she's got clothes on her back, and she's getting fed. What more do you want for your child? And she's safe. What more do you want for your
child? Don't get me wrong. There's the future stuff that's going to happen that I can foresee that we see with the type of parenting you're going to get. You're going to get a certain type of behavior that comes off the back of that. So you're basically breeding and bringing up another, basically normalizing a narcissistic behavior, in my view. And she's normalized not seeing when I was in hospital. She's normalized not seeing me. She hasn't got that same sort of. If her mum went into hospital, and this is a bit painful, if her mum went into hospital, then Lila would be by the bedside. I go into hospital. Oh, you'll be all right. Just because I told her I'm invincible doesn't mean I don't want my daughter next to me. Do you know what I mean? But
No,
ultimately, that's
but that's everything. Yeah, you might think, oh, my dad's my hero. Yeah, but you always need someone there beside you. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're laid up in hospital, you ain't got no one else beside you. You just want that one little person.
But this is it. But she not only that she didn't have the. I was in hospital about a long distance from where she was. Anyway, but her mum wouldn't allow that to happen. Her mum was like literally when she was here, she was arguing with her grad, and I was speaking to her about like Lindsay's mum, and I was like, and I said, look, why is she like this still after 10 years? Why is this still an issue? And literally, it's she said, her mum said she won't be happy until you're dead. She won't be happy until you're out of your daughter's life. That's made me even more determined to stay in her life ultimately, because someone tells me to do something, I'll do the opposite.
That's it. Then, you're going to be like, no, it's not that. Ain't my time. Ain't my time.
Yeah.
You're going to fight and fight more and more and more. More and more you fight, yeah, she's going to think, oh, he's still here then. And more you're laughing in a way because she ain't getting what she wants.
Mate, I'm here for my daughter. I'll pick up the pieces of my daughter all day long. I'll pick up, I'll be around. She when all the shit was hitting the fan last year, the only one phone number she knew, the one mobile phone number she knew was mine. That's the only number. No, and she called me. It was all,
That tells you something. If she calls her mum's number, but she didn't yours, then that's saying something. She might not have been by your bedside when you was in hospital. Yeah,
but that's because she couldn't. Her mum wouldn't let her. So her mum wouldn't let her. So that's the reality. And I think when people are like, oh, you don't see your daughter. Well, I do actually. I speak to her every day. I speak to her every single day, at least via text message, at least. And it's like, yeah, I don't see her as much. But when I've sort of normalized it in my head by like, she's moved out of home. She's moved out. Yeah, she's a grown up. Yeah, it's happened a few years too soon, but she's moved out. And I think that's how you have to look at it. You have to, when they get to a certain age and they make their mind up, like literally 11, 12 years old, even if, because kids mature quicker when their parents separate, they have to. So they have to mature. If they're 10 years old, sometimes 10 years old, they can write a letter to the judge and tell the judge what they want. And if you put too much pressure on the kid to spend time with you and the kid's getting a hard time at home, so they don't want to spend time with you, then they're not going to want to spend time with you because you're forcing them to spend time with you.
That's what I said earlier. My door's always going to be open. When they decide it's time to come and live with daddy, then the doors are going to be open for them.
Yeah.
Don't force your children to do something what they don't want to do at the moment.
Yeah.
They might tell you,
and then you're fighting a different battle because you're fighting your kid because they're going to take the side.
I want to come live with you. They want to come live with you. If you force that, yeah, every child always change their mind. If you force it, yeah, then it's going to be a different story. Just to make sure they know when you're ready. Yeah, the door's always going to be open for you.
And it hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot because you're missing time with your kids. You're missing important things. Like I found some more teeth the other day. Where are they? Look. Literally, I found some more teeth. Like literally, like they're all Lila's teeth. They were £50 per tooth. £50 per tooth. There's about fucking £500 worth of teeth in there.
Keep them, put them underneath.
I will. That's what I'm saying. But literally, I've had to do things differently. I had to like pay £50 per tooth to get a tooth. Do you know what I mean? I had to get and you have to, and it's painful, and you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to at all. But when you're fighting, or not fighting, because normally what I find with people is we're not the ones that are fighting. We're the ones trying to put out the fire. But because we're putting out the fire, in some cases, we put out the fire the wrong way. So we're doing it too aggressively, or we're coming across, because I've got a deep voice. People think I'm shouting, and I'm not shouting. Yeah. That's just how I am. It's just, I get passionate. I'm not shouting. And I had to explain that to a judge, because they're like, oh, you're shouting. I'm like, no, I'm not shouting. This is normal. But then I realised that's what I was doing at work, and I got feedback, and I changed a little bit. And then now I don't give a fuck. Now I just don't care, because I'm just me. And it's like, and people like me or they don't like me. I don't care either way, because I try and be nice to everybody anyway.
Mate, you either like or you hate you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I find it like this. I find it more like this. Like literally, they like you when you're doing things for them. But then when you have a difference of opinion, fuck it, he's a wanker. Don't like him anymore.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. to make it in that situation.
but it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Everyone's like, yeah. But you see it in court as well. You see it in court as well when the other side's agreeing with the Cafcass report, and suddenly this Cafcass report changes, and it's like, oh no, I don't agree with the Cafcass report anymore. We're like, yeah, we agree with the Cafcass report. What's changed? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So, but that's life. I think that's why I don't take anyone's compliments. I'm shit at taking compliments, but when everyone says, "Oh, something nice to me," I'm like, "Yeah, great, that's today. Wait until fucking next week or whatever when you fucking
wait till next week and you're slagging me off."
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, I hope I don't know if you've got to shoot off or anything. I know you've got work or whatever in the morning, but I'm going to go through these questions and I'll make sure everyone's clear on stuff. So you can stay. Are you staying or?
Yeah, I'll stay for a little bit longer.
Yeah, cool. So these comments, yeah. So I just want to see some of these comments. So final hearing, we can't afford solicitor anymore. Lost on money. Any advice, please? So if final hearing, depends on where you are with stuff. You don't need a solicitor. You should never pay for a solicitor in the first place. You know that now. All you need to do is put your. If it's a final hearing, if it's a contested hearing or if it's a finding of facts hearing, depends because you get two different things. Because the finding of facts hearing is not your final hearing; it's just the final. When you're going into the process, the finding of facts hearing is the end of the point where you can stop talking about your each other. And when you come to the end of that hearing, that's when you're all child focused because they've ironed out all the allegations. They've taken on board what has been said to each other and the allegations against each other. And the judge has made a determination as to who's telling the truth and who's lying. If you get found to be lying, that will work against you. If you get found to be telling the truth and the allegations get upheld against the other party, that probably won't, depending on what the allegation is, it's not going to change the world. If it's a minor allegation, if the child has not been taken off the mum, if the child has not been taken off the other party, take the sex gender out of it. If the child has not been taken out of the other part, out of care from the other party, you have to be hard pushed to get into a final hearing to think you're going to have a full lives with order if that's what you're going for with yourself. But if you're going for like something reasonable, like a shared care arrangement, which I saw someone make a comment the other day saying shared care arrangements are really difficult to get. I guarantee you they're not if you do things properly, because you could probably walk out with a equal shared care agreement now if you wanted to. But even if you worded it in a way of, you have to word it with recitals and everything in there, but you can pretty much work that out yourself if you wanted to. Yeah, but it depends on what this person's going for. But lots of people that I'm working with now are getting, if they're living in the local area, they're not at conflict, or you minimize the conflict, or you don't respond to the conflict, and then you get a long, substantial time showing there's no conflict, and you can communicate with each other, then you are likely to get a shared care agreement. If there is no communication whatsoever, and you're going through the app, and the app is difficult at best, you get a few times when the parents have already agreed between them a shared care order, but it hasn't been finalised. That will then go into court, and then it will just be business as usual. But to work from going no contact or every other weekend to a 50-50, the likelihood of that happening in a court case, if you've got no substantial evidence to show why it should happen, is very slim, I'd say. What do you think, Anthony?
Repeat that again, sorry.
So if you think that you going from every other weekend into a final hearing, or into a final hearing, to going from every other weekend to then going for a full lives with or a 50-50 shared care, if you've not got close to shared care already on an equal setting, going into a final hearing and trying to get that would be quite demanding, would you not say?
I would say, yeah, it would be quite demanding. I'll go back. I've got every other weekend, and I see him every Wednesday. But if you're on a point where you can say, okay, so now I'll split holidays. I'm like, right, what week do you want to take? How are we going to work this week at? It's just been holidays, hasn't it, for March? I was like, right, okay, what I'll do, I'll take them from the Friday to the Wednesday because it's my weekend anyway. So I'll take them then. You can do the rest. If you're on that civil matters, like if you're on that kind of level, then it's all right. You might not get, shared care in court, but outside, not on paper, if you're civil with each other and you can do that, then it might work out better.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think what definitely works, as well, is if making sure you're local to each other. And but mate, you could walk. That's why I'm confident. If you wanted it, I know you're not. I know you don't. But based on where you're where you are at the moment right now, yeah, with your situation, I believe totally 100%. If you were to go into court and say a shared care arrangement on an equal footing, blah, 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 making sure there's recitals in there. So if the child wants an odd night here and whatever, they can choose pretty much what they want, freedom and flexibility. Our relationship can manage that because we look at how we're communicating now, look at this evidence, we can communicate with each other. There's no reason for a judge to say no because there's no conflict there. The reason they would say no, is because you can't, because there is no conflict, because there is conflict, because you can't communicate, because there is problems. So while the other side, and the women know this, because there was a time, I'm sure in my mind, where your ex was like just doing the same thing. It was like everything you were doing was just fire, fire, fire. But because you didn't respond and didn't react, there was nothing she could do. She got bored. She must have just got well, whatever happened. But the situation is now where it is.
Yeah, it's because I think because it got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not, I didn't reply. I weren't starting to reply back to her messages. I weren't starting to do that, And when it started getting less and less, I don't know if she thought there and sat there and gone, "To tell you what, it's actually had quite a big impact." I don't know what she thought, but whatever she thought, it's done well. It's done well, and I'm not going to criticise that.
No, definitely not. I think it's a fucking beautiful thing. I think it's a really good thing. Really good thing. There's loads of comments. I have a final hit. I've done that one. So final advice: be honest, be pure, be you. Be you, be honest, be pure. Tell the truth, own your shit, be humble, make sacrifice, compromise. If you need some extra help on top of that, I think there's an email address on the bottom. So my ex asked an old friend to make a bold statement about me. The police have proof. I'm 99% shows that she sent armed police to my door. Should I bring that up in court? Yes. That's the second person that's happened to. That's the second person that's happened to. I was speaking to someone the other day, one of my clients the other week, and he was sitting there, and he was about to go to bed. They had a green dot pop up here on his thing. He's like, "What the fuck?" Opened his window, and there's like armed police everywhere. And she's like, reported it to the. I absolutely would report that to the police. It shows a different level of conflict. You've got to be careful with that, but it's a different level of conflict, and you definitely would.
I would say approach it with caution. Do you know what I mean? I'll approach it gently and think about what you're going to say. Yeah, don't come across negative. Come across like 50. Come across normal. Don't go across aggressive.
The police deleted the evidence from my phone of her abuse, and they have made me see a psychologist. I've given me a misdiagnosis. I'm not going to get involved with that one, unfortunately, because it's difficult. I can't make a comment on that on a live. That's going to do too deep. I'm not disputing that because I've seen stuff similar to that happen. But if you want to reach out to me separately, I can try and help you separately with that. Be calm and collective. Yep, definitely. There's been no fact finding, nothing. It's going straight to final hearing in April. That's a good thing. And also didn't get a 45-minute call with Cafcass. Oh, that's not so good. Concerns are all in it together. I need to see you. So if you haven't got any call from Cafcass, they'll probably speak to you before the hearing. There's no chance if it doesn't. If it says final hearing on your court document, then you need to dispute that it's going to be a final hearing. And just because it says it's a final hearing, there's so many times I've said they've been told it's a final hearing, and it doesn't turn out to be a final hearing because you either won't let it be a final hearing. You got to remember, as a litigating person, if you had a solicitor, the solicitor would say, "Well, we can't have it being a final hearing," however they want to say it. As a litigating person, you can still say that shit, but you just have to say it as you. You don't have to worry about all the language they use, or get a decent Mackenzie friend to give you a hand.
For a Mackenzie friend, definitely.
Say again.
Choose you as a Mackenzie friend.
Well, if you needed to. But how I'm working is going to be totally different. How I'm working is going to be totally different to every other Mackenzie friend. Totally different. Which means I'll be able to help more people and still educate them as well. Educate them to make sure they never have to pay anything towards anyone again. God, I'm genius. But I am. It's taken me so much time, though. You would not believe it's taken me so much time to upload everything when it's to be uploaded. It's just ridiculously time. And didn't realize it was going to be difficult doing that. But it is in place. It's happening. It's all good. Second court hearing, I was asked if I had any concerns. I said no, not at this minute. But I will bring them up in section 7. Cafcass straight away stated that they had already passed my concerns over to the mum. Straight away, Cafcass lying straight away. Look, You can get dodgy Cafcass officers. You're going to get good Cafcass officers. You're going to get bad ones. You're going to get good policemen. You're going to get bad ones. Good Greg's shops. You're going to get bad Greg's. Sometimes you go to Weatherspoons, you get good shit service. Sometimes you get good service. You're going to get good people. You're going to get bad people wherever you come along. Whatever the situation is with that, you've got to try. Whatever happens, you've got to try and befriend the Cafcass officer. You've got to try and say to them that what your concerns are. I've done it before. We've written some stinging letters to Cafcass, proper humdingers. Doesn't mean it's going to make any difference at the end of it all, because as long as I've had my cases myself personally prejudged because of my own behaviour and actions and attitude. Cafcass have prejudged me, so I've gone into court, and I've always gone into court, and even the fucking police, everyone prejudges me, and I was like, I'm going to court, and I've shown it to the judge, and I've said this to a few people now. I've said it to you, Anthony. I've said it to a few people. Literally, I won't bother arguing with social service anymore. I won't bother arguing with the police. I won't bother arguing with anybody. If I was in that situation, I'd be like, fucking keep my evidence. You're all saying that mum's fine, look after the kids, fine, whatever. I've got my concerns here. I will then share them with the judge, and then I'll just speak to the judge about it. And when I do that, and if every time I start doing it, the judge has always seen what I'm saying, and like I've always come out okay. Every time I've come to court, every time Lindsay made all these applications over the years, I've always walked out of court with a little bit extra, a little bit more, all the way up to the point where I've got like a shared care order equals putting, but it makes no difference whatsoever. And I said this at the final hearing. It says it makes no difference whatsoever because she doesn't stick to it. It doesn't matter what the judge says. Doesn't matter what anyone does. She's got 20 hours community service. Doesn't matter. She still hasn't stuck to the court order. Not once, not ever. Because as far as she's concerned, the courts are wrong. Everyone's wrong. Everyone's wrong. That's. And I get people saying, "Oh, haven't dealt with my ex. You haven't dealt with this." Everyone's ex is painful, but when you've got, and I get it because I've got one of the most painful ones. If you've got people who are, if you're able to break it down, I wish for my daughter's sake I could communicate with, or she could communicate with me. But again, it goes back to the psychology. She is a red or a blue or a purple or whatever letters you might want to use, depending on these things. I'm a different color, and because I know how to communicate with the reds and different colors and different types of people, you can do it. But because psychology comes into this massively. So the professionals will use psychology against the men. They've done it against you in your situation, Anthony, haven't they? They've used psychology stuff with you that if you hadn't have known what they were doing and we hadn't predicted what they were doing, then you'd have been like, bleh.
Yeah, what I would say is when it comes to social services, yeah, don't always, because they're nice to your face, yeah. Don't take that first appearance, because I'll tell you now, they're nice to your face, but when they're with someone else, they stab you in the back. That's all. I'm not going to go into too much about. That's all what I'm going to say. No, I've experienced it.
Is it state of parental alienation from her and coercion? Yeah, that's fine. Why? Yeah, that's fine. It's not fine. It's not fine. It's not fine. I'm not saying that parental alienation is fine. I'm not saying that it's good at all. Okay, put it like this. When I was bringing this up years ago, when it first going on, I wasn't getting listened to. I wasn't getting listened to at all because I was making all the shouting. I was shouting and saying, "Let's do this happening, this happening." What happened was every time that the social services or Cafcass, they would call her, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm coming over and do this investigation. Come and do this, come and do that." And because she's covert, and because you can't, and she is like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, she can put the little eyelashes on and whatever they do, and it's all beautiful, and she can speak so delightfully and politely and that sort of stuff. I've been in situations where my ex would be shouting her mouth off at me, literally shouting, and then her phone would ring, and it'd be, "Hi, how you doing? You okay?" And you put the phone down, and it's again, and that's after half hour, and that's after half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. So and then you put the phone. I'm like, wow, why can't you just speak to them? So that's what I was dealing with. So for me, I could continue that conflict, I could continue that fight, I could continue that battle, but I would lose. And the only reason I was fighting that battle was to have my daughter in my care and to make sure I can protect her. But then when you are fighting a covert, and at the time, I didn't know how to deal with a covert. I didn't know how to do it. I've learned over the time to it. Right now, I've got an equal shared care order, but literally, it doesn't get abided by. Doesn't get stuck to because she doesn't stick to it. Now, what I could do, I could go and make another application to court, and then fight that, and then that's going to piss Lila off because my daughter I promised her after the last court case, she's fed up with it. She said, no more court at all. So I'm like, okay, no more court. My daughter's saying to me, effectively, that she's okay at home. The professionals are saying to me that she's okay at home. Summer last year, it became apparent that she's not okay at home. Yeah, and it became apparent that I wasn't the one with the problem. I spent 10 years trying to be a better person. I spent 10 years just trying to look at my flaws, look at what I've done wrong in my relationship with everything and everyone, and try and be better and try and be a better person for Lila. She's got a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of arguments. That's all she knows. So I'm showing her love and I'm showing her compassion. I'm showing her empathy. That's natural for me because it's easier to behave that way than it is to be angry. I spent a long time being angry. But when no one was listening to me, I said, look, I'm taking a step back. I accept what I've got, I accept what I've done, accept everything that you've got in front of me, I accept it all. I'm just going to stick to the court order, blah, blah, blah. Even then, that was difficult sticking to the court order because she would move things around when it suited her, go on holiday when it suited her, do whatever when it suits her, whatever. Again, I could be angry. I could be, and I was at first, when I was led by Fathers for Justice, I was very angry and I was banging the door down. I was calling the police all the time. I was doing this, I was doing that. Everything got used against me. Everything. Because it got turned into coercive control and behaviour. So fine, I'm going to take a step back then and accept what I've got here. So that's what I did, and off the back of that, she still doesn't talk to me. Fine, but that impacts Lila. Everything I do is trying to have a positive impact on Lila. So Lila doesn't want to choose between her mum and me. If I forced my daughter to come and live with me, she'd probably turn around and say she doesn't want to live with me because I parent differently. I don't buy all the materialistic shit that she gets like from the magpie. Yeah, so anything shiny, you'll get bought. Yeah, that's what my ex is like. Anything shiny, buy it. She buys love. So last year when Lila said she wanted to live with me, my ex literally took her bedroom, took everything from Lila's bedroom, all of her worldly goods, every electrical item, every book, every bit of clothing, every trainer. She took it all, bagged it all up, left her with a clothes hanger with her school uniform, some leggings, underwear, and one pair of shoes for school. And she said, go on then, you want to go live with your dad? Go live with your dad. This is all mine. So what she was saying there was she basically expresses her love and she gives her love in gifts and materialistic stuff. That's what she's expressed her love with. I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. So I don't live that way.
Sorry to interrupt, but you can't. The way I look at it, you can't buy your child's love.
No, you
So,
can't.
how much money you got, no matter what you spend on them or get them, you can never buy them. It's about you being there more than anything.
But the point is, when a child is growing up with that, and you got to think lockdown happened. When lockdown happened, we were in court at the start of COVID. We were in court because I don't drive. The judge, the one thing the judge said to me this hearing, she didn't want Lila getting on. She didn't want Lila getting on in public transport. I was living in Watford. She's in South London. So I was like, but if you don't get in public transport, then I can't see my daughter. And she was like, well, the judge was like, well, I don't. If it's the one sensible thing that that Miss Appleyard said today, what that she's like, she goes to school on the bus, she goes to school on the train. Yeah, that's scratching my head. So I said to her, like, so if I can't go and get her on the train, so can I go and see my daughter every week rather than every other weekend? So I was like, yeah, that's fine. If you could drive, then there'd be you could go and get her. I said, well, my girlfriend at the time could pick her up. Judge was like, no, there's too much conflict between my ex-wife and who causes the conflict? My ex-wife. So it's like, there's battles. So I basically said every Sunday I was going to see Lila, but then those every Sunday turned into, for a day visit, turned into 5 minutes, 2 minutes, a hug on the doorstep. And that there is then, when lockdown happened, then Lila got used to being the materialistic stuff, the less of me. So ultimately, I'm not saying it's right or acceptable that she's been alienated and the behaviour is allowed. But summer last year, when the professionals were all looking at it, and I said, if I go back to family court again now, the first thing I'm doing is she needs to have a psychological assessment. The professionals were like, we're not going back to court. Don't let them go to court. We're not going to court. They're protecting the mum and they're protecting her. But they're working on her and their relationship with, and this is wrong again, so many different levels. They're protecting the relationship with the mum and the child, and they're making sure those two are good, and Lindsay's parenting properly. Great, that's good for Lila. No one's worried about me on the outskirts here. No one's worried about me and my relationship. But in the eyes of the professionals, my relationship with my daughter is absolutely fine because she's got no issues with me. My daughter hasn't reported any issues with me. She's reported issues with her mum in terms of the conflict, and that's what they're working on. The issue we have is how do you then tell my daughter that how she's been brought up effectively is wrong, because it's not wrong in their world, because there's no bruises. There's no bruises that leave the emotional scar, and parental alienation is not a crime, or it's not recognized. The emotional and psychological harm that's been caused has to be proven. That would mean going back to court again. And while the professionals can see it, and the police can see it, and the school can see it, everyone can see it, how do we then fix that? Because we can't change the mum. We can't change Lindsay to make her do what she's meant to be doing. So all I can do, and all I've been told to do, is continue to do what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, because it's the best way of doing it. And I've got the professionals eating out of my pocket, because look, I've done that. I literally have got to keep my eye on my daughter. Simple as that. And it's not easy, and it's not. So there's no way in the world I'm saying it's fine. But when you are arguing with professionals, you're fighting a battle that it's a difficult one to win, because they're saying that it's fine, because they can't well, they can now. They would say now, they would say now, but they can't. At the time, they couldn't prove it. They can prove it beyond doubt now, but I would push my daughter away. My daughter would say to me she wants to live with her mum, because I can't give her the shiny stuff that she wants, and her mum would take it ultimately. What's more, my ex-solicitor has not sent bundles requested. They couldn't reply allegations. Final hearing, and it's final hearing, waited 2 years. What did you do? What did Jessica say? Say that again. So, hang on a minute. So, the judge has requested that I couldn't reply to her allegations. Bollocks. I've replied to the allegations anyway. The solicitor sent the exhibits and bound this entire. Ask for an adjournment. Ask for an adjournment, and that definitely ask for it to be adjourned, so you want a fair hearing, and you haven't had a chance to reply based on that reason. And if they don't give you an adjournment, I'd probably do some sort of strike in court, because I'm very. But for me, if I ever end up back in family court again, I don't take it seriously anymore. I literally do not take it seriously. I think it's farcical, and everyone can see what the outcome is always. Even though the best result I ever had when I got my shared care order was when I just didn't give a damn in the world about anything, literally. I'm not saying you should go and do that, because I know it's very painful. I'm saying you should, it's very, because you haven't been one. I think you need to ask for an adjournment, 100%. If you need some help, give me a shout. You have gone through hell and back. Not really. There's people in worse situations. Just under a year for me, it's painful. £500 an hour, seeing that one, but it's ridiculous. These solicitor prices are ridiculous. Keep your eye on the group, yeah? Keep your eye on the group, because I'm going to put this solicitor receipt in there later tonight. It's ridiculous. Black some bits out on it. I'm sure to be open and honest, if that's fine, I'm not sure. Okay, well, look, anyone needs any help that I've not managed to respond to these messages, then give me a shout. That's what's happening to me. They made you and me on the same page. Mate, it happens a lot. You'd be surprised whenever I come in. Part of my coping mechanism, and this is what makes me laugh. The reason I do this, yeah, and I know I've got pockets of people that slag me off and whatever. I'm cool with that. I know why people slag me off, and I know the truth behind things, so I'm not bothered by that. But ultimately, what you find is the people you come on board, and everyone realizes it. When I first went through this stuff, and I was going through what you're going through there, and I was suicidal, I was self-medicating, I was doing everything you can imagine. 10 years on, I'm grateful that it all happened, because I'm able now to help other people. And as crazy as it sounds, that's how that's my job, and I get a lot of satisfaction from that. I've learned over the years. I've seen different types of women. I've seen different types of relationships, and I can predict what's going to happen next based on what I've seen already. And you would not believe they're either on the same script. All these women they're getting it all from the same place, but because there's a certain type of woman with a certain type of behaviour, and I can pick it out and I can see it. And one of the people that are slagging me off now have got this behaviour, and I spotted it, and I was like, I don't want to be rubbing shoulders with that. I don't want to be rubbing shoulders with that at all. So now that person's come after me and whatever. So it's like, fine, I'm cool with it. But what you need to realise is these people, there's ways of dealing with them. I've got a final statement, and I heard nothing from her on this matter. She has mine. Good. You follow the process. She also gave me the wrong address. Her mum's. Yeah. So this will all backfire when this is all in court. When this is all in court, and you'd say this to the judge, that will all. You'd hope that there'll be consequence to that. I've had kit hearings where people have been slammed, the solicitor slammed the other side, and the mum all the way through the hearing, and then we think it's going to go our way, and it doesn't, because it's not in the child's best interest. And it's like, as much as it frustrates you, as much as it really pisses you off at the time, it's like, and you're like, what the fuck, what? you look at it on reflection and you think, well, I can see where he's coming from. I can't, but I can. I can see the perspective, but I can't. I'm talking too much. I could go on forever, and I do talk too much. So I'm going to go. So I'm going to go, Anthony, because thank you for being here.
That's right, mate. Not a problem.
Are you okay with me using this on rehashing it or doing it all? Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it is, mate. Of course it is.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for being here. Peace and love. Lions love.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.